We are back with the NBA playoffs explained, recapping the entire NBA playoffs from the first round to the NBA finals. Last video, we wrapped up on April 23rd. Since then, 15 days have passed. A lot has happened in the NBA playoffs, and officially the first round is over. So by the end of this video, you'll be all caught up going in to the conference semis for each conference. Let's get right into it. The Miami Heat and Boston Celtics game 2 in Boston. The first half was back and forth, but in the third quarter, the Miami Heat would pull away, upsetting the #1 seed and best record in the entire NBA on the back of a franchise playoff record 23 team threes, stealing home court from the #1 seed and giving Miami Heat fans hope that they could potentially do the impossible again, upset an 8 seed en route to an NBA Finals run without their star Jimmy Butler. Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo were brilliant in this one. Tyler had 24 points, 14 assists, Bam 21 and 10, and Caleb Martin had 21 points as well. KP had a rough game for the Celtics, 1 for 9 from the field, 6 points, a -32 plus minus. Nobody saw this one coming. We all thought this was going to be a sweep, maybe a 5-game series at best. But after this game, I wonder if Boston is going to have a harder out in the Heat than they thought. This video is brought to you by Autograph. Autograph is the first app to recognize and reward fans, turning their passion into access and experience. And I'm teaming up with them for the NBA playoffs. I'll be releasing an exclusive game recap of the Denver Nuggets and Minnesota Timberwolves on Friday on their app. So download using code Hardwood or the link in the description. Together, we're also giving away tickets to the Eastern or Western Conference Finals. So once you download and use code Hardwood, make sure to claim that offer in the app. Hopefully it's my Minnesota Timberwolves you'll get a chance to see in the Western Conference Finals. So download it now using code Hardwood. I'll see you over there. And the other game on this Wednesday slate, the Pelicans and the Thunder. After a very competitive and tightly contested game 1, the Thunder would take care of business, blowing out the Pelicans 124-92. Each one of the Thunder starters were plus 24 or higher plus minus. And SGA would finish with 33 points, 5 assists on 13 for 19 from the field. Chet Holmgren was also phenomenal, 26 points on 9 for 13 from the field and 7 rebounds. Maybe this series won't be all that close. On Thursday, April 25th, we would have a 3-game slate starting with the Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Magic have looked awful in their first 2 games, scoring 83 and 86 points respectively. Their offense has to figure it out, and the young core in Orlando would do just that, blowing out the Cavaliers 121-83, limiting Donovan Mitchell to just 13 points on 6 for 16 from the field. Jalen Suggs balled in this game, 24 points on 9 for 11 from the field, and Paolo, of course, 31 and 14. This was huge for Orlando. It looked like they were headed towards a disaster of a first playoff series for these guys, and although at the end of the day, as an Orlando fan, you're excited for the future, you still want to see in their first playoff series some fight. Our second game of the evening, the Sixers versus the Knicks. The Knicks lead this series 2-0, and although the Sixers were in both of those games having a lead late in that second one in a game they should have won, massive third quarter for Philadelphia, outscoring the Knicks 43-27, being the difference in that game. Joel Embiid was phenomenal, but as much as I admire his fight in this series, his knee is clearly bothering him, and he's dealing with a case of Bell's palsy in the left side of his face. Regardless, Philadelphia gets a much-needed win, escaping a 3-0 deficit and instead going down 2-1 in this series. And our final game of the night, 9 for 13 from the field, 15 boards and 9 assists. Jamal Murray continues to struggle shooting in this series, going 8 for 21. Aaron Gordon had a surprising 29 and 15 on 12 for 18 from the field. And outside of those 3 guys and MPJ, nobody on this Nuggets team scored more than 5 points. They absolutely rely on this starting lineup. Anthony Davis would finish with 33 and 15. LeBron James 26, 9 and 6. And D'Angelo Russell had 0 points on 0 for 7 from the field. I said this in game game 1, you need an A+ series out of D'Angelo Russell in order to have a chance to win this one. This type of stuff just will not cut it. The Lakers don't have enough talent. And although they shot 5 for 27 from 3, which you can say they'll shoot better in the future, the Nuggets shot 5 for 28. I'm sorry to say it, this series is over. The Lakers are not coming back. Denver leads 3-0, bringing us to our Friday, April 26th slate. 3 games again, starting with the Timberwolves and the Suns. The Wolves lead this series 2-0, going to Phoenix in game 3. Grayson Allen sprained his ankle in the first 2 games of this series, is out in game 3, which is a massive loss for a Suns team that has 0 depth. They start Royce O'Neal, but it's actually Eric Gordon that got it going in the first quarter, scoring 10 points and going 2 for 2 from 3 in just 6 minutes of play. They're going to need Eric Gordon in Grayson Allen's absence, but the Wolves again would just slowly wear this Phoenix Suns team down, being up 59-53 at the end of the first half. And in the third quarter, they would outscore them 36-20 on the back of 4 3-pointers from Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Phoenix would have one last effort trying to cut into this 22-point lead, getting it to 12, but Anthony Edwards would close the door, scoring 18 points in the fourth quarter. The Minnesota Timberwolves win 126-109, leading this series 3-0 for the first time in franchise history. Anthony Edwards finishes with 36 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 12 for 23 from the field. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the bench, 16 points, a +23 plus-minus, which is a team high. And Rudy Gobert with 19 points and 14 rebounds. Just remember, everyone was picking this Phoenix Suns team to beat the Wolves. I myself included as a Wolves fan. I was terrified to play this team. And Minnesota has just absolutely dominated every single game. This series is all but over as well. We'll see if Minnesota can get it done in 4 instead of going back home for game 5. Our next game on tonight's slate was Pacers-Bucks. It was tied 1-1 heading into Indianapolis. Damian Lillard got injured early in this game, and although he came back and played, you could tell he just was not the same. And with Giannis still out, that left Chris Middleton to be the guy for Milwaukee. He absolutely delivered, hitting this 3-pointer, sending this game into overtime. Aaron Nesmith would hit this 3, putting the Pacers up 3 points with 15 seconds to go. Again, Chris Middleton hits a 3, banks it in to tie the game with 8 seconds left. And Tyrese Halliburton hits a game winner, giving the Pacers a 2-1 lead, putting themselves in the driver's seat in this series. It's looking pretty grim for Milwaukee. Dame is now hurt. We have no idea what his status is for game 4, and it doesn't sound like Giannis is coming back for game 4 either. It's getting close to panic time for Milwaukee, but I have to shout out Middleton in this game. He went 16 for 29 from the field, 42 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Bobby Portis had 17 and 18, and even Damian Lillard, although he only shot 6 for 20 from the field, played 45 minutes on that Achilles, still had 28 points and 8 assists. And the Pacers do what they always do. Every single starter was in double figures. Miles Turner led the way with 29 points and 9 boards. Tyrese Halliburton had a triple-double, 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 16 assists, which leads us to our final game of the night, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Los Angeles Clippers. Game 3. Remember, the Clippers won game 1 without Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard came back and played game 2, and the Clippers lost, which is wild to think about. But if you watch that game, Kawhi could not move laterally at all. You could tell that knee was bothering him. And in this game, we saw more of the same from Kawhi. He only played 25 minutes, had 9 points on just 7 attempts from the field. The second quarter was the difference in this. The Mavericks would outscore the Clippers 36-18, win the game 101-90. Luka finished with 22 on just 7 for 25 from the field. He's also dealing with a sore knee, but that's why the trades that Dallas made at the deadline have reinvigorated their defense and allows them to be such a dangerous team, because when Luka and Kyrie aren't hitting, they don't have to still outscore people. They can hold a team like the Clippers, even with an injured Kawhi, to 90 points because of that defense. Dallas goes up 2-1 heading into game 4. Oh, and I almost forgot, Russell Westbrook was playing absolutely terrible in this game, so he decided to go spaz on everybody, completely embarrassing himself and getting ejected. He went 0 for 7 from the field with 1 point in 19 minutes. And our Saturday, April 27th slate had 4 games on it, starting with the Cavaliers and the Magic. I'll be quick with this one. The Magic do it again, holding the Cavaliers to just 89 points. And after being down at half by 7, they would outscore the Cavs in the third quarter 37-10, winning this game 112-89. And this is crazy because you've seen both home teams kind of dominate in each set of games in this one, tying the series 2-2. Franz Wagner finally woke up in this series, scoring 34 points, 13 boards, 13 for 17 from the field, which was huge because Paolo has been doing the heavy lifting and he had a rough game in this one. We'll see if an away team can win a game in this series. Next up, Thunder Pelicans game 3. Thunder fans, I apologize. I love your team. I wish we could break down their games more, but they destroy the Pelicans again, 106-85. Josh Giddey had his best game of the series so far, 21 points, 8 for 13. 8 rebounds and 6 assists. And on the Pelicans end, nobody looks very good. CJ McCollum 7 for 22 from the field. This is a team that's desperately missing their star Zion Williamson. OKC goes up in this series 3-0. I think it's safe to say this series is most likely over as well. Game 3 of Celtics Heat. The Celtics have to win this game or it is danger time. They gave up home court advantage, losing game 2, and they would do just that, outscoring the Heat 42-27 in the second quarter en route to a 104-84 victory. At the end of the day, Boston is by far the more talented team, and there's only so much that Coach Spo can really do schematically to help mask this Miami Heat team's deficiencies without Jimmy Butler. Celtics go up 2-1 in this series, and the final game of the day, the Lakers Nuggets game 4. The Lakers would have a lead again at the end of the first quarter, the 4th straight game in this series. In the second quarter, they would lengthen that lead to 12 by the end of the half and hold off Denver, winning their first game of the series, making this 3-1, sending it back to Denver. Nikola Jokic did all he could, had 33 points, 14 and 14. Jamal Murray, another poor shooting game, 9 for 23, that sore calf bothering him. A bounce back game from D'Angelo Russell, 21 points, and LeBron James had 30. AD had 25 and 23. Let's be honest, every Laker fan right now is convincing themselves they're going to be the first team to come back from 3-0. They've led a majority of the series. This is their opportunity to turn the corner. And to that, I'm saying it's not going to happen. These are the defending champs for a reason. You simply can't dig yourself into a 3-0 hole and get out of it. No team has ever come back down 3-0, and I'm sure it'll happen at some point, but my guess is it'll be an injury-related situation. It's not going to be in this series, which brings us to Sunday, April 28th. First game of the slate, the Knicks Sixers game 4. Jalen Brunson was phenomenal in this game. He scored 47 points, had 10 assists, and did all the heavy lifting for this team. The Knicks grind out a win in Philadelphia, 97-92. Josh Hart had such a classic stat line in 46 minutes, 0 for 7 from the field, 4 points, 5 assists, and 17 rebounds. Joel Embiid was bad in the fourth quarter in this game, 0 for 5 from the field, playing the entire quarter with just 1 point. But even with that bad quarter, he was still a team high +1 ±. And for the series at this point, the Sixers are -38 in 32 minutes without Joel Embiid on the floor in this one, which is absolutely awful. So as bad of a fourth quarter as he has played, Joel Embiid is the only reason they're in this series. Tyrese Maxey has been good, of course, but the on-off numbers for Joel Embiid and the Sixers is ridiculous. The Knicks give themselves a chance at the gentleman's sweep in Madison Square Garden for game 5. I personally thought this series was going to 7. I had Philadelphia winning it, but it doesn't look like it's going that way, which is a shame because this Philadelphia team was so good before Joel Embiid got injured, and we really should be having a matchup like this in the first round. Game 3 of the night and game 4 of the series, the Clippers and the Mavericks. Kawhi Leonard was announced out for game 4 with right knee inflammation. The Clippers offense once again looked fantastic without Kawhi out there. 39 29-16 in the first quarter, taking a 15-point lead going into the half. But the Mavericks completely erased that lead in the third quarter, outscoring the Clippers 29-16. This Luka 3 would tie the game 98-98 with 5 minutes left, and this was just premier shot making from Paul George, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving down the stretch in this one. 5 straight Kyrie Irving points would put the Mavericks up 1 with 2 minutes to go. And that's when Paul George hit this three-pointer, putting the Clippers up 107-105. As back and forth of a game as this was down the stretch, Dallas just missed a couple of shots in that final minute, and the Clippers would even up the series 2-2 in Dallas, 116-111. James Harden and Paul George looked like the 2010s versions of themselves in this one, both playing 40+ minutes. James Harden going 12 for 17 from the field, 33 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and Paul George 33 points as well, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Kyrie would have 40 points on 14 from 25, and Luka had a triple-double, 29, 10, and 10. Again though, inefficient, 10 for 24 from the field, completely unlike Luka Doncic. I hope that his knee can hold up in this series. They're going to need him as they head back to Los Angeles for Game 5. And finally, Bucks Pacers Game 5. No Damian Lillard and no Giannis in this game, and it went pretty much as we would expect it to. The Bucks fought hard in the first half, down just 3 at the break, but the Pacers would open it up in the third quarter and defeat the Bucks 126-113. Not much to say here. I just wish the Bucks were healthy for this series. That's not to take away anything from what the Pacers are doing, but this would have been a fun one if Giannis was healthy. Game 4 of Minnesota and Phoenix. Minnesota's going for the clean sweep here, and while they were down 5 at halftime, they'd ratchet up that defense in the second half and complete the sweep. Anthony Edwards had 40 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. This is their first sweep in franchise history. Super impressed by the Timberwolves in this first round. On the other hand, with Phoenix, I made a whole video breaking down my problems with Phoenix. Check that out in the description if you want to hear more about it. But yeah, it's pretty embarrassing to blow up a young core that made the NBA Finals in 2021, had 64 wins in 2022, to become title contenders with a 34-year-old Kevin Durant, only to go to the conference semis in 2023 and get swept in the first round in 2024. Sounds like Matt Ishbia, the owner for Phoenix, wants to run it back. They don't really have any other choice, so I get it. But they also are in salary cap hell with the second apron and do not own their own first round pick until 2031. I would be borderline depressed as a Phoenix Suns fan right now. Which brings us to Monday, April 29th, a 3-game slate starting with the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat. I think it's safe to say Miami needs this one in Miami to stay alive in this series, but instead Boston dominated again, being up 17 at half, winning 102-88. Derek White would finish with 38 points, but Kristaps Porzingis would go down with a calf injury just 14 minutes into this game, which is a huge loss for Boston. Even though you feel good about the series, you're going to move on to the next round being up 3-1. Having a guy like KP's future availability being in jeopardy is a huge loss. Secondly, we have Game 4 of Pelicans Thunder. Again, OKC dominates this series. That first game was the only game that was close. I'm excited to see the Thunder in the second round be able to cover them more, but unfortunately, this was just a boring series. Brandon Ingram would shoot just 2 for 14 in this game, and for the Pelicans heading into this offseason, I have a semi-hot take. I think they should sell everybody not named Trey Murphy, Zion, and Herb Jones. I understand this is a completely different thing with Zion, but the West is so good right now. It's only going to get better next year. You guys, if you've listened to my videos, you've heard me talk about this. Houston's going to be better. They're young. They surged towards the end of the season last year without Şengün. The Memphis Grizzlies are probably going to be a top 4 seed next year, fully healthy. And as of right now, by my count, there's just 2 teams in the Western Conference next year not trying to win: the Portland Trail Blazers and the San Antonio Spurs. The best time to rebuild is when no one else is. Sell off your assets, get young, and see where you're at in 2 years. Finally, our last game of the slate, game 5 of Nuggets Lakers. This one was a tight one. The Lakers would lose their first quarter of the entire series, but be up at half by 3. Anthony Davis would dislocate his shoulder midway through this game, come back in and play, but you could tell he was not the same. Regardless, the fourth quarter of this game was super fun. After this Rui Hachimura dunk with 8:33 to go, neither team would lead by more than a single possession. We would have 11 lead changes in those 8.5 minutes. With 2:12 to go, Austin Reeves hits this 3, putting the Lakers up 1. Nikola Jokic comes down, puts Denver back up. LeBron James quickly scores, putting the Lakers back up. And then Jamal Murray hits a 3, putting Denver up 106-104. LeBron hits 2 free throws, tying the game 106-106, which allows Denver to hold for one final shot. And Jamal Murray does it again, ending the series with this game-winning shot. He becomes just the first player in NBA history to have 2 game-winning shots in a playoff series with under 5 seconds to go. But what's even crazier is there was a chance Jamal did not play in this game due to that calf strain. He would score 32 points on 13 for 28 from the field. Jokic again put up massive numbers, 25 and 20 with 9 assists, and MPJ had 26 points as well. Denver will now face Minnesota in the Western Conference semis, and I'm just hoping that Jamal Murray gets healthy enough for this series. Although he had those 2 game winners and showed up when it mattered, he shot it pretty poorly from the field in this one. 40% for the series, 29% from 3. But on the other hand, MPJ was massive for Denver, averaging 23 points on 55.3% shooting, including 49% from 3 on 8 attempts per game. For the Lakers, LeBron had 30, 11, and 9, which is pretty wild to think about from a 39-year-old in the playoffs. They just got nothing from their bench. Just 11 bench points were scored. I really don't know what the Lakers are supposed to do this offseason. LeBron has a $49 million player option. Who knows if he takes it or not? And I do think the Lakers are a good team. It's unfortunate you'd match up against a team like the Denver Nuggets, but that's why the regular season matters. You can't get out to an 18-21 start in early January and expect to be a top 4 or 5 seed in the Western Conference. LA would end up leading something crazy like 70% of this series, but at the same time, watching these games, you didn't ever feel like they had Denver on the ropes. They were so early in these games, and Denver always turned it on in the 3rd or early 4th quarter. The reigning champions are just clearly a tier above this Lakers team. Tuesday, April 30th, another 3-game slate, starting with game 5 of Knicks and Sixers. And almost in an opposite way that game 2 ended, the Sixers looked like their series was completely over late in this 4th quarter, down 96-90 with 28 seconds to go after this Deuce McBride jumper. But then Tyrese Maxey would hit this 3 and get the foul, a 4-point play. Josh Hart would make just 1 free throw, and Tyrese Maxey hits a 3, tying the game, sending it to overtime, where the Sixers would win 112-106. And that's why I was so confident this was going to be the best series of the first round. The Sixers are not a 7 seed. They're only there due to injury, and although this series has felt lopsided in terms of the series lead for the Knicks, every single one of these games has been really close, which means the Sixers are now down just 3-2 in the series and have a chance to go back to Philadelphia in game 6 and force a game 7 on New York. Tyrese Maxey played an insane 52 minutes in this game, had 46 points on 17 for 30 from the field. Embiid would finish with a triple-double, but honestly, he wasn't that good in this series. They need him to score 30 a game. Jalen Brunson has been absolutely insane in this series as well. He played 51 minutes. Josh Hart played 53. OG Anunoby played 50, and Brunson finished with 40 points. You got to feel a little nervous if you're a Knicks fan at this point. Game 5 was kind of a must win in a series like this one. Game 2 of the night, Magic and Cavs, Game 5. Back in Cleveland, again, the home team wins 104-103 for Cleveland. Evan Mobley came up with an insane block on Franz Wagner with 5 seconds to go, sealing this win for Cleveland. Paolo was phenomenal, had 39 and 8 on 14 for 24. Franz struggled 3 for 11. And again, in this series, the home team wins, sending us back to Orlando for Game 6, Cleveland up 3-2. I almost forgot Jarrett Allen was a scratch in this game, a huge loss for Cleveland. He was dealing with a bruised rib. Not sure if he'll play in Game 6. The most surprising result of the day came in the final game, the Bucks Pacers Game 5 in Milwaukee. Again, without Damian Lillard or Giannis, this Bucks team dominates the Pacers 115-92. Patrick Beverley was plus 36 plus minus, had 13 points and 12 assists. Chris Middleton had 29 and 12. Bobby Portis had 29 and 10. If you're a Pacers fan, you're annoyed you didn't get that gentleman sweep, but you can't feel like this is a performance they can replicate. If there's no Dame and no Giannis coming back for Game 6, which at this point is doubtful, the Bucks are not going to win this series. However, very impressive win from Milwaukee. Nobody expected it, especially a blowout like that one. Wednesday, May 1st, Game 5 of Boston, Miami. The Celtics again blow out the Heat. It's weird that Game 2 was a complete anomaly in this series. And although Kristaps Porzingis is injured, it didn't matter in this one for the Celtics. They just have too much for Miami without Jimmy. Terry Rozier also didn't play the entire series, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. was out for this game. But let's be honest, the Celtics are clearly the better team. I'm excited to see them get challenged in round 2. But for now, Boston wins 4-1. And Jimmy Butler had this to say about the series.
If I was playing, Boston would be at home. New York damn sure would be fucking at home.
Moving on to our other game of the night, Clippers Mavericks Game 5 back in LA. I wish I had a better game to break down for you guys, but the Mavericks won by 30, 123-93. Luka finally had a game where he shot it well from the field. He had 35 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds on 14 for 26 from the field. James Harden and Paul George came back down to earth after that Herculean effort in Game 4 with just 15 points from Paul George and 7 from James Harden in this one. Bucks Pacers Game 6 took place on Thursday, May 2nd, and another blowout. There's been a ton of blowouts in this playoffs, mainly due to injuries, but the Pacers take care of business and advance to the Eastern Conference semis, beating the Bucks 120-98. TJ McConnell had a great game, 20 points, 9 assists, 4 steals. It is of note, Damian Lillard came back and played in this game, which I think is pretty admirable. A sore Achilles is scary, especially for a player that's 33 years old, and he would put up 28 points, but it just was not enough. Oh yeah, and Pat Bev threw a ball at a fan at the end of the game and then told a reporter for ESPN she couldn't interview him if she wasn't subscribed to his podcast. Pretty embarrassing actions from Beverly. The Pacers move on to face the winner of the Knicks Sixers, which Game 6 of that series is our next game on the evening. Heading into the fourth quarter of this game, it was tied up at 83, and finally for the Sixers, Buddy Hield was getting some minutes and having a huge impact. 17 points in the first half with 5 threes. Sixers were down 8 points with 2:43 to go before going on a 7-0 run, with this Kelly Oubre dunk putting it at just a 1-point game. Jalen Brunson makes an incredible shot, putting it back up to 3 before Tyrese Maxey has an and 1, tying the game. The Sixers have some pretty bad rotation on defense. Josh Hart hits this 3 with 25 seconds to go, putting them up 3. And although Embiid would make it 2 quickly, DiVincenzo makes both free throws, and the Knicks smartly foul before the Sixers can get a 3 off. Maxey makes both free throws, Jalen Brunson makes both of his free throws, and Buddy Hield misses this 3-pointer as time expires. The Knicks win a hard-fought 6-game series, 118-115. Through all 6 games, in terms of total point differential, the Knicks were +1. That's how close this series was. Jalen Brunson averaged 35.5 points per game in this series. Embiid only shot 44% from the field in this one. And again, if you're the Sixers, this is another very disappointing exit for you in the playoffs. If I'm a Sixer fan, I just keep asking myself, at what point can we have a normal postseason? It seems like every single year something happens, but they do have a ton of cap space coming up and an opportunity to make some big moves this offseason. I think they got to do it. They stood pat and traded James Harden, which I think was a mistake looking back at it. You simply have to improve this roster. And Joel Embiid, as much as I appreciate his incredible ability to score the ball and his underrated rim protection, you got to make it to an Eastern Conference Finals as an MVP. I don't care if you agreed with it or not. If he doesn't make a conference finals in his playoff career, his legacy is going to be forever tarnished. This feels like a lost year for Philadelphia, and I understand Tyrese Maxey's only getting better. He's just 23 years old, but at some point you wonder if Joel Embiid can stay healthy in the NBA. It continues to happen over and over again. On the Knicks side, they will match up versus the Indiana Pacers, which will be a fun series as well. They don't have much depth at all though. Tibbs already likes to play his guys heavy minutes, but will have to continue that because Bogdanovic got hurt in the fourth game of this series, which means the Knicks may only be going 7 deep, potentially 8 if Precious gets some run. We'll see. That brings us to Friday, May 3rd of the first round of the NBA playoffs. We have 2 games on the slate, both game 6s, starting with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic. We're back in Orlando, which means the home team is probably going to win. That's exactly what happens. The Magic force a game 7, winning 103-96 in spite of a Donovan Mitchell 50 bomb, going 22 for 36 from the field. Outside of Darius Garland scoring 21 points and Max Strus scoring 10, nobody else scored really at all for Cleveland. Paolo's having a phenomenal series for a guy that's just 21 years old. He had 27, 8, and 4. Franz had 26. Jalen Suggs had 22. We'll go back to Cleveland for game 7 and our other game 6, the Clippers and the Mavericks. The first half was close. It was actually tied at halftime, but the Mavericks had a really strong third quarter, outscoring the Clippers 35-20 and would win this one 114-101, winning the series, matching up with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference semifinals. This is a series I'm extremely excited to cover. As for the Clippers this offseason, I don't know where you go from here. Kawhi cannot stay healthy in the playoffs. I love Kawhi, but you've barely had him over the past 4 seasons in the postseason. I don't think Paul George looks like his former self. He's 33 years old. And then you have James Harden. They have a lot of decisions to make if they're going to continue be the team that just spends a ton of money going over the second apron and paying a bunch in luxury tax. But I think we're at the point where we can pretty safely say this experiment for the Clippers has not worked. Now, it has been injury luck. I will say they win the 2021 NBA Finals if Kawhi Leonard is healthy. However, it is a trend that Kawhi has not been able to stay healthy over the last 4 to 5 seasons. And this experiment in LA had very high expectations, yet they made just 1 conference final. Due to the weird NBA schedule, Saturday, May 4th, we had our first game of the second round before the first round even finished, and it was between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I told you guys in my Nuggets Timberwolves preview video, my prediction is Wolves in 6, but I also said that this is the best playoff series to date, probably going to be the best playoff series of the entire NBA playoffs in my opinion, and that I thought the winner of this series wins the NBA Finals. Well, the Wolves would get out to an 18-4 lead early in this one on the back of 13 Anthony Edwards points. But the moment both teams went to their benches, we thought the Wolves had the advantage on the bench. However, Reggie Jackson and Justin Holiday provided some serious boost to the Nuggets, and they would go on a run of their own, completely wiping away that early deficit and leading by 4 points at halftime. Anthony Edwards was pretty much Minnesota's entire offense in the first half. He would end the half with 25 of Minnesota's 40 points. But to start the third quarter, Karl Anthony Towns woke up, scoring 8 of Minnesota's first 11 points. And between him and Mike Conley, they both would score 11 points on perfect shooting in this quarter, which was huge for the Wolves that needed some additional offensive help alongside Anthony Edwards. After just absolutely bullying Reggie Jackson, Anthony Edwards would get called for a technical foul with a minute to go in the third for staring at his opponent that he just buried. An absolutely disgustingly weak call that the NBA would rescind after the game. And the Wolves would lead this one 73-71 going into the fourth quarter. After going scoreless in the first half and 0 for 7 from the field, Jamal Murray would have a strong second half, including this 4-point play, putting the Nuggets up 1 with 8:35 to go. After a couple Anthony Edwards buckets, Christian Braun would hit his first 3 of the postseason, tying the game, before Naz Reid would bank in this 3, which was the beginning of Naz Reid scoring 10 points straight, putting Minnesota up 6, 94-88 with 4 minutes to go. Rudy Gobert banks in this push shot, putting the Wolves up 9, and then Anthony Edwards comes down and has the most beautiful isolation fadeaway you'll see in the game today, putting the Wolves up 11, winning this one for the Timberwolves 106-99, stealing game 1 in Denver versus the reigning champs. Their defense was absolutely impeccable in this game, with Karl Anthony Towns on Nikola Jokic and Rudy Gobert roaming off of Aaron Gordon. Check out this play where Rudy Gobert completely eliminated this alley-oop play that Jokic and Aaron Gordon love to run. And on the offensive end, Anthony Edwards was phenomenal. He had 43 points, making him just the second player in NBA history, 22 years or younger in the playoffs, to have back-to-back 40-plus point performances, joining Kobe Bryant. On the Nuggets side of things, Nikola Jokic worked for every single point he got, would still finish with 32, 8, and 9, but did so on 11 for 25 from the field with 7 turnovers. And Jamal Murray again struggled, only shot 6 for 14 from the field, had 17 points. Ironically enough, it was Denver's bench that saved them in this one. Reggie Jackson and Justin Holiday in 15 minutes were plus 19 and plus 15. Meanwhile, a guy like Aaron Gordon was a rare minus 23. And I think what game 1 showed us is that the Timberwolves match up incredibly well versus Denver. They have more size than anyone in the league, 4 bodies to throw at Jokic in Cat, Rudy, Naz, and Kyle Anderson. And on the other end, Denver has nobody that can guard Anthony Edwards. KCP was getting cooked. He's too small. And then Aaron Gordon's just not fast enough. Anthony Edwards was blowing right by him. Look for some adjustments in game 2 from Michael Malone. I think they have something in Christian Braun potentially guarding Anthony Edwards. Plus, I don't expect Nikola Jokic to be as inefficient or as turnover prone as he was in this game. He also shot 9 threes and only made 2 of them. But at the same time, this Timberwolves team is legit. That defense is legit. Rudy Gobert was incredible. Karl Anthony Towns, even though he was in foul trouble, did a great job on Nikola Jokic. Jaden McDaniels when he was on Jamal Murray, Anthony Edwards on Jamal Murray, and even Jaden on MPJ. They all did extremely well. And I'm telling you right now, this was an A+ performance from Anthony Edwards. This was not an A+ performance from his supporting cast around him on the offensive end. We'll see what happens in game 2, but if you're Denver, you absolutely cannot go down 2-0 heading into Minnesota. This becomes a must-win and the first real test that this Nuggets team has had since the 2022 playoffs. Finally, our last game of the first round of the playoffs, Sunday, May 5th, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic in game 7 in Cleveland. Early on in this one, it was all Orlando.
They got up by as much as 18 in that second quarter and were up by 10 at halftime.
Paolo had 24 points in that first half, got to the free throw line a ton with 10 attempts, making all 10 of them. But Donovan Mitchell only shot 3 for 13 from the field in that first half. Cleveland would come out in the third quarter and only hold the Magic to 15 points while scoring 33, completely swinging this game back in Cleveland's direction. And in that third quarter, Donovan Mitchell was at the center of it. He went 7 for 9 from the field, had 17 points. And instead of Darius Garland, it was Max Strus that was massive for them as well. Went 4 for 5 from the field, 3 for 3 from 3, had 11 points as well. Meanwhile, the Magic only went 4 for 24 from the field in that quarter. Paolo had just 4 points on 1 for 7, and Franz was 0 for 6. Cleveland wins this one 106-94. It was a hard-fought series both ways. Neither home team lost the entire series. If you're a Magic fan, I understand the disappointment in this one. This was a series you absolutely felt like you could win, but you have to remember your team is young. Paolo Banchero is 21 years old. Franz Wagner is 22. Jalen Suggs is 22. Even a guy like Jonathan Isaac is just 26 years old. You'll be back in the playoffs, and this was incredible experience for that young core to build on for years to come. As for Cleveland, they have the tall task of playing the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference semifinals. It doesn't sound like the Celtics will have Kristaps Porzingis for the beginning of this series, and with calf strains, we could see what happened with Giannis, where there's hope he comes back, but he's just not progressing like the team is comfortable with. Although I'm a little skeptical about the Celtics title chances, I don't see how they lose to Cleveland. Even though round 2 has begun before round 1 ended, here is what the updated NBA playoffs bracket looks like. We have these round 2 matchups. The 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder facing the Dallas Mavericks, which will tip off on Tuesday night, May 7th. One thing of note in this one is that Kleber for Dallas is out the rest of the playoffs. He had a fantastic series in round 1. They're going to miss him. The 3 seed Minnesota Timberwolves versus the 2 seed Denver Nuggets, who play tomorrow, Monday, May 6th in game 2. The 1 seed in the East, the Boston Celtics, and the 4 seed Cleveland Cavaliers, who play Tuesday, May 7th as well. And the 2 seed New York Knicks and the 6 seed Indiana Pacers, who play in game 1 of their series, Monday, May 6th. My predictions for round 2 is that the Mavericks defeat the Thunder in 7. This one could go either way. It's no disrespect to the Thunder. I just think the playoff experience of Luka and Kyrie edges them out in this one, and the Thunder are going to be in this position for the next 4 to 5 years to come. My prediction for the Timberwolves and the Nuggets: in my Timberwolves Nuggets preview, I got the Wolves in 6. Celtics Cavaliers, I got the Celtics in 5. I really don't think Cleveland puts up that much of a fight up against Boston. And Knicks Pacers, I got the Knicks in 6. I like the Pacers. I think it will be a hard-fought series, but I really do think the New York Knicks have a chance to upset Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. We may end up releasing this video after Monday's games have played, but they will take place in the next recap video we will do next Monday. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a long one. The NBA playoffs have been a lot harder for me to figure out a format and a cadence for posting these recaps. Daily videos weren't doing well for me and also aren't really that sustainable or realistic. I have other videos I like to do as well. So we've settled on weekly videos going forward for the playoff recap. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, check out the video I made on the Phoenix Suns, the super team that can't win, and the Denver Minnesota series preview, which I deemed to be the greatest series of this entire NBA playoffs. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, we'll see ya on the hardwood.